Hi there, welcome to the Noah Presgrove case. Now, by the title of this video, you might be thinking that sounds rather sharp and almost on the same level as Sarah Long and what her statement was, but no, there is meaning behind this video, but in a realistic way. Did Noah Presgrove stand any chance of survival? What were the possible ways of surviving? That's like the ultimate question, I guess. And whilst you can say, well, too late now, it's not going to change anything now with what's happened previously, the overall theme of today's video is trying to understand what's at fault, what's to blame, who's to blame. And some people could say, oh, it shouldn't be a blame game, it gets too messy and causes drama and conflict. But at the end of the day, Noah didn't just simply drop dead on the spot. Contact was made somehow in order for him to die. And it's like, well, who's behind the object responsible for taking Noah out, intentional or not, planned or not? In terms of Sarah Long's reasoning ability or lack of it, by saying, well, it's Noah's choice and Noah's responsibility. He didn't deserve it, but, it's kind of on him for being on a highway somehow and possibly getting hit, maybe. But, that's just on Noah, nobody else. Oh, so I guess with that mentality, it means there should be no follow-up. And as for a possible driver that may have collided with Noah, intentional or not, aware or not at the time, well, there should no follow-up there, no questioning, just leave it be, and it is what it is. Yeah, I can imagine if it was one of their family members that was in Noah's situation, there'd be a lot more of this, wouldn't there? But that's typical. That's what you'd expect from most humans, the way their mentalities and attitudes work. When it's not on them, you can talk more casually. When it is on yourself, you're going to feel different. Just like how when it comes to looking at this case, yeah, it's easy for me to do it, or to an extent, because I'm not the one truly impacted. But if you did have a person or a family member trying to make sense of everything, it could be harder on them because of the emotional connection and the impact it has. It's just a normal thing. So I'm going to be doing a map analysis today with some previous markers and points to highlight and reiterate. And likely we'll be going around that overall theme of alcohol. This type of video is a concentrated, focused one. I've slipped it into previous videos, my thoughts on there is a fair chance that Noah could have died anyway. If it wasn't for anyone else, Noah could have died in an alternative way on the highway. It sounds very vague, that, but don't worry, it's all under control. I'm going to explain it bit by bit as we go along today. But just be sure to stick about. I'd also like to make a small little observation and prediction before we go any further and the introduction. My observation predictions are, I feel that there's a couple of twats, okay, scattered about. I've got an idea. Some may need cleansing, others pending. But see it this way. Actually, I'll save it for later on in this video. I'm just thinking of the timing and language and wording, because YouTube can be strict at times. But I just sense a presence, but we see how it goes with time. And if anything does happen, or when it does happen, it won't surprise me, because I've already made notes of it just recently in here. So there we go, one step ahead again. But welcome to those that are currently here in this live premiere. Be sure to share your thoughts and opinions in the live chat box on the right hand side of the screen, and make sure to drop a comment down below under this video if you've got any additional thoughts or questions, and I can respond back to them later. You'll also find a pinned message below with additional links if you do want to support this channel. And if you want to catch up on recent coverage, top right where the eye symbol is, click up there, you get the drop down box with the full playlist as well, and including the ASMR relaxing video that I did earlier on today. There's a handful of stuff to catch up with. A couple of loose videos yesterday. Performance-wise, quite disappointing, but to be honest, the thumbnail wasn't custom, it was default, and my face was in the thumbnail. And whenever my face is in the thumbnail, the views drop immediately. So that's a funny pattern and trend I've observed in the past. Don't know why, but whatever. It was just like some casual videos I needed to get done, tick them off the list. There's another video idea that I need to tick off the list as well with the Noah Presgrove case, like a photo comparison side by side with some party footage and a miscellaneous one. But that can be for a separate time. It's only small scale, but I've just been on the lookout for it anyway. So yeah, in terms of the order of how we're going to do things today, we're going to get straight into the maps, talk it through bit by bit, the theme of the chances of survival when it came to Noah Presgrove, and was there any hope, really, realistically? And as well, just to name drop one word, alcohol being a very important factor, either be on the receiving end of it or the other way. I'll explain. If there is time later, I'll probably look at the comment section from my YouTube channel, one of the previous videos that I did, which I think is to do with the text conversation with Caden pressing his mother, Alicia Lee. Just need to catch up there, some interesting points. So yeah, a range of stuff. Let's just see how we are with time and just move on with the maps. Here we are, so you can see the markers already, which you'll be familiar with to an extent. I mean, the ones that do stand out is the side-by-side rollover, supposedly at 2:40 AM when it did occur, followed by some other events, the shower as well. These events are important because it ties in with the consumption usage of alcohol, which led to these events and the condition Noah was in at the time. And that's why it's important for today. The condition that Noah was in, does it determine his outcome? Does it change in any way if he had another way of getting out, getting away from the property? That is what's most important. Okay, so we've got that other timestamp of walking away but returning back supposedly if it's within that time frame. Then the final one, I know it's on that white pathway, well, dirt road. It's probably hard to read, but it says around 3:30 Noah walks off. Now, quite a few people don't think that Noah walked off. Others think he may have walked off, but just not off the property, remained on site. And then the remainder, people believe Noah didn't even walk out of the house, but he might have been taken out of the house at the time of being killed. Just as an example, a suggestion. What's this blue marker here, though? Before 3:30, Jack and Noah argue Monday. I don't know why. Oh no, it's the same. Yeah, it's just tying in line with the timestamp roughly, because we don't actually have a true timestamp of when Jack and Noah had that final argument. As for the Saturday one, that was the other way around, which was quite eye-opening if you think about it. There is another marker, and it's just a very rough one. Sunday, vehicle left at house. So what we're really focusing on is Monday morning, but we can incorporate a bit of Sunday morning as well. Saturday, Noah was okay and he was safe at the party at that point. Alcohol was involved early on. No issues there. Sunday, similar situation to an extent. Then Monday is when things started to unfold. Was there anything consistent, though, over the days? Alcohol present. Similar set of people, to an extent, present. But as for the vehicle, not always there. We've heard about Saturday, Noah drove down. Okay, he came himself in his own vehicle. We've already heard about Caden Pressey having his own, the red Cherokee, so he was okay. He wasn't in the right way to be able to drive at a certain point because of the alcohol intake, but it didn't stop him on Monday morning when driving down to the highway because of the events, the unfortunate circumstance. So you could argue and say there was an exception there. But just to jump the gun, if I'll be honest with you, and I'm going to ask you a question right now, you can leave a response in the comment section. At the time of, let's say, 5:15, if that's the true timestamp of when Jack made it back to the party house to let people know, was Jack drunk or under any influence of alcohol at that point? Especially if earlier on at the party, when all there, they were drinking alcohol. I mean, who was truly sober and at what point? So that by 5:15 and onwards, when Caden was getting ready to go out to the highway, was Caden drunk at that point or not? Earlier on, at the time of when, maybe Sunday going into Monday, when you had Noah Presgrove reaching out to different people, including Caden, saying, can I have a lift back? And people said nope, because of, I guess, drinking, might get in trouble with police. It'd be interesting to know what the perspective of some of the other party goers would be if they said, oh, I don't want to get in trouble with police, because you could say that's quite rich, if some have been able to get away with stuff in the past, despite being reckless, if it comes to driving, if it comes to speed limits, whatever, bits and bobs like that. It doesn't stop them then, but why does it stop you now? Just wanted to throw that little suggestion in. But I don't know, it seems like the party house is like a trap, whether that be done to one's self in a way. You know, everyone comes down collectively to have a good time. Alcohol just so happens to be present if it's the source is from the house, or if whoever has brought alcohol down, whether it's exchanged, whether it's passed over, or personal drinks, whatever. That drinking going on, and depending how much you have, it gets to that point where it's like, well, all I can do is stay here. I can't go back home. And if you brought your car down, it's not like you can drive back home, because if you've had alcohol throughout the day or going into the night, and it gets to that point where it's just too late anyway, you might as well just stop on by and sleep. And that's how it would have been with Noah on a Saturday. I guess Noah had no issues with staying at the party house Saturday, going to Saturday night to Sunday morning. But as soon as Sunday morning came about and they were at Wairika, where the gas station, roughly there. As for who drove who to the place, I'm not too sure. I'm thinking, did Noah Presgrove use his own vehicle from Saturday night, because it was stopped outside, into the Sunday morning, driving on down to Wairika with or without passengers? All fine, because what? They slept it off the night before, going into Sunday morning, alcohol has worn off. Whether they've got a hangover or not, I don't know. But going to Wairika, get some proper food, re-energise oneself, yeah, okay, makes sense. And then at some point after breakfast, and I'm guessing after the events of the guys and Caleb going back out, after that, then Noah making it back to his place of living, roughly over this way or so. Later on Sunday, getting a call from Jack to come on down to the party, but instead of Noah driving down, he received a lift from a guy called Gage Jessen, a male who did not stop at the party, just drove Noah down like a taxi service, with possibly Mikey Lair and a few other individuals. As for all the names, I don't know. That's where the first problem comes about. The chances of survival drop by a fair amount. As soon as Noah leaves his vehicle at his place of living to go back down to the party house, as soon as you get down there, you are now dependent and reliant on someone at the party or about to give you a lift back home. Because how else are you supposed to make it home when it's a 42-mile distance apart? You can't just walk back, right? So I'm not saying what Noah did was a mistake, because it was a personal choice, and by that point you wouldn't have expected as to what would follow next. Leaving your vehicle behind, no issues with that. But when you're looking back retrospectively now, you can point out and say, well, because Noah didn't have his vehicle with him come Monday morning or Sunday night, that's why he was dependent and why he reached out to different partygoers for a lift back home, but that didn't work out. Well, if that's ultimately the case, then why couldn't Noah just settle with what he's got, a place of accommodation, sleep on the floor, put up with it, bite your teeth, managed it Saturday night, wake up later on Monday, and then finally get a lift back home, and you'd be safe. Just wait it out, be patient. But do we know that for certain? Do we know if Noah was to remain there, to put up, shut up, and just wait the time out, Would he have survived the night, the morning? Would he have been okay if he remained in the party house? I mean, if there was anyone at the party responsible, known or a stranger, or a person nearby, uninvited, who was responsible for harming Noah Presgrove, if Noah stayed close to innocent people, so there would be witnesses present at all times, would Noah have stood a better chance of survival? Maybe. But once again, was Noah to know that? To expect that? Probably not. We've also discussed previously, is there a chance that if Noah was blindsided, he would have a harder chance at survival compared to if he was aware of what was going to happen? We don't know the true answers there, but does anyone think that Noah Presgrove sensed any danger, felt that something was off at any point? I know there's been some discussions that, well, maybe one of the reasons why Noah wanted to leave is because he felt like things were heating up or people were on to him. There was going to be guests coming on down to come after him, so he needed to leave quick. A race against time. Sounds quite tense. And if Noah for some reason knew that or felt what was going to happen, impending doom, and he's like rushing about, I need to get back home. I need to get out of here before something happens to me or someone comes on down. You could understand that behaviour, that feeling, time is against you. I need a lift, and it just doesn't happen. Does that overflow to desperation and getting in that side-by-side to try and drive off, but being unsuccessful because it rolls over? That's a possibility. I'm not saying as a fact that Noah... I mean, to word it better way, if Noah Presgrove never rolled over that side-by-side, what would he have done with it? Where would he have gone? How far would he have, driven? What direction was he actually going in? Jack Newton at some point previously said it was round the back of the house, so it would have been on the grass area, meaning if it did roll over and turn, wouldn't really cause any damage to the vehicle. It'd be somewhat cushioned by the soft-ish ground, but surely there'd be scrape and skid marks present. No reference of that, but maybe, I don't know, I just don't remember hearing any reference about marks in the ground, any track marks, any footprints. It's very interesting because footprints are a vital piece of evidence in different cases, whether that be bloodied footprints, muddied footprints in missing person or true crime, but no real mention of that here. I mean, chances of footprints would be a lot lower here in this case because of the temperature, the dryness. It wasn't wet, the ground wasn't moist or saturated, so prints wouldn't remain as clear unless you had some thin surface level dirt like sand and you stand on it, leaves an imprint. But if there's wind, a breeze, a little dash of rain after, it could be destroyed. That evidence wouldn't last as long. But I'd like to know that side by side, if it never rolled over, where would it have gone? Was it an attempt to get hold of a vehicle and to drive it back to his place of living because no one would give him a lift? You could say, to reinforce that, as long as when Noah reached out to multiple people about getting a lift back, if that happened first, then the chances of getting in that side-by-side after, maybe a bit more likely to have tried leaving. I say, I'm not saying it as a 100% fact, but if it's in a certain order, you can see how one thing could link to another, an act of desperation. Noah desperately wanting to go back home, or just simply wanting to go back home, because you've got to check for the mannerisms, the body language and behaviour afterwards. As said, I am looking at it as a whole, the ins and outs of events, and the particular events I'm looking at, what I'm working myself up to is that alcohol was a debilitating issue for Noah, and it's what ultimately led to his vulnerability and outcome. And on top of that, even if no one was out to kill him and there was no accident by somebody else, there is a chance that Noah Presgrove would have still died anyway if under certain circumstances. And I'm going to get to that later. Is there any little factors I could throw in now to suggest how he would have survived? Well, the bit about staying on site at the property, close to friends, innocent people, and staying inside, that's very uncertain because you don't know how it could have gone anyway. But realistically, if there was at least one designated driver capable and wanting to give Noah a lift back home, that is really the only guaranteed way of survival. I know others have said, well, if it wasn't for the vehicle being left behind up that way, if the vehicle was brought back down like it was Saturday, Noah's own, he could have got into that and drove home. But you know what the issue is? If Noah was capable of doing a side-by-side rollover, actually rolling it over at 2:40 in the morning, was that out of sheer recklessness or drunkenness? Drunk driving. People who are drunk are likely going to have a hard time when driving, and depending on what circumstances, situation, and environment they're in, there could be a danger to themselves, a danger to the passengers, put other people's lives at risk, including strangers, innocent bystanders on the road, or pedestrians. You see? Okay, we talk about alcohol at a party, how fights could break out and things escalate. People get caught up in a crossfire. You get a drunken idiot. I'm just talking in general there, in life. Who gets a bit boisterous, starts a fight, or takes it out on a random innocent person walking by, and it's not fair, is it? People's lives are endangered when you got drunk people about. That doesn't apply to everyone that gets drunk. Other people that get drunk could just become flirty. Others who get drunk could become a bit tired, subdued, and then others may just be laughing and smiling. A range of people react differently to alcohol and when drunk, and others may never know because they just don't drink, whether they want to or not, right? Numerous factors to take in mind. In terms of from what we know of Noah Presgrove, when he gets drunk, he just talks a lot, flirts a lot with other girls. Did he do that at this very party? Maybe, maybe not. And if he did, how would his girlfriend, if he definitely had a girlfriend at that time who just wasn't at the party, how would they have felt? Because Noah is the victim in all of this, but if Noah did interact or get close to any of the girls at the party, to a small degree, you could say Noah's girlfriend, under the right circumstances, was a bit of a victim as well, if it comes to cheating and whatnot. Of course, you can't really bring that up because it doesn't quite compare to the levels as in what Noah has gone through. But once again, we don't need to turn it into a top trumps game of who's worse off and whose issues are more important than others. It shouldn't be a matter of comparison, all individual outcomes. I mean, are there any other victims out of the party at the time? And I don't mean beyond with claims and harassment online. I'm just talking about at the party itself. Was anyone else a victim to anything? From what we're aware of, there was no drink spiked, which you could say is a bit of a miracle, considering there was 30 to 40 people present, trying to track all of that going on and all the drinks. And out of the 30, 40 people, how many were drunk? How many did drink? Carter Combs classified as a designated driver. Is that because she just doesn't drink or like alcohol? Or is it because it was agreed that at the time at least one person had to not drink in order to be able to give people lifts back home? If that can be answered down below, that'd be appreciated. But to refer back to that side-by-side rollover, if that was primarily because of Noah being drunk, just imagine what would have happened if later on, or in replacement of this event, Noah got into his own vehicle. If Noah wanted to go back home, he would have, if he had his own vehicle with him at the time. And whilst it's an event that didn't happen, it's likely that it could have if it was present. And that's what links to the same outcome for Noah. Different, maybe type of cause of death, but still death at the end of it. Now, it comes across as a bit negative, as if Noah had no chance. That as soon as he made the choice to come on down to that party or return back on the Sunday, that was it already. The moment he set foot on site of that property Sunday afternoon, night time, that was game over for him immediately. He had no chance whatsoever. As I said, if he had a lift back, that's the way of survival. There might be an alternative way as well, but I just can't think of it on the spot. But to imagine it, Noah gets in his vehicle Monday morning, with or without passengers. He may drive off. At what point down the dirt road or even on the highway would he have rolled over? Why would he roll over though? Depends how reckless his driving is. It doesn't have to be a rollover either. It could be just a head-on collision. Once again, these events didn't happen, but they could have and are very likely if alcohol is involved. If the side-by-side accident is mainly caused by the consumption influence of alcohol, it impairs your reaction timing, slows it down, your awareness, makes you a bit disorientated, tired, whatever, then driving on a highway with poor lighting, it's a recipe for a bad outcome, isn't it? So whether it be before or beyond, if Noah did manage to get to the highway and he's like, hey, I can go back home now, how far down the highway until Noah dies? That sounds really bad, but do you honestly think that Noah Presgrove would be able to drive 42 miles back home in the darkness in his vehicle whilst drunk? There might be people out there in this world that could manage it. I saw some comments recently, but I don't know if it was directed towards Noah or other partygoers, saying it might have been exaggerated when it came to being under the influence of alcohol, drunk, but not completely. I guess it depends. But to be honest, whilst the outcome was bad, nevertheless, for Noah Presgrove, the alternative could have been much worse. And I know some people could say, how could it be much worse? Death is death. It depends how many die. And if in the situation Noah had the opportunity, if his vehicle was present with him Sunday, as in like how it was Saturday, would he have time to have recovered, to sober up as he did Saturday night going into Sunday morning? No. Because Sunday night going into Monday morning, there wasn't a time to sleep, at least for Noah's mindset. Once in the real world, from the story of the case, after Noah was rejected and after the side-by-side rollover 240, I guess it became a bit more clear and apparent that Noah just didn't have any chance to get back home. Did he concede defeat? Have that shower and think, you know what, I haven't got much choice or chance now, I might as well just put up with it and whatnot. As for the teabagging event and being fed food, we don't have proof of that as for like video footage or photos, publicly speaking, so it's hard to believe. But if an event like that did happen at the party, how does Noah go from being drunk to a side-by-side rollover because of likely alcohol consumption over the limit? Shower, needing help to be, propped up, stood up by the likes of Carter Combs, Jasmine Millan, in case he falls over, not quite there with it. He does a sudden U-turn turnaround and now full of energy. How would you manage that? How do you recover so quick? Is that even possible? What I'm getting at is, beyond that point, or even before, there's a time frame window where Noah had no chance of recovery. So in an alternative situation, if he got in his own vehicle, before, after, or in replacement of the side-by-side rollover event, he likely would have either rolled over or crashed his vehicle somewhere down the highway, miles on or nearby. And if there were other people along the highway driving, truck driver, family, early hours of the morning, whatever, poor lighting, a collision could have occurred. Noah endangering himself, endangering others, and killing multiple people because of alcohol. It happens. It didn't in this event, but it could have, and more deaths could have happened because of it. Previous events which don't link to the party but link to alcohol consumption to an extent would be Warwicker Lake over here, 2020, with Caleb Newton operating a boat. A 7-year-old girl falls off that boat mysteriously. Is that all down to Caleb? No. But in terms of awareness, you could question. But at least on what some comments have said, you're not allowed to drink and drive, as in operating a boat. You're not allowed to be doing that. I don't know if it differs from state to state, but, you know, you're operating a vehicle or a mode of transportation. You've got the responsibility of keeping yourself safe, others on board, and others about. If you start driving irresponsibly, recklessly, it can cause impacts. There can be consequences, direct, indirect, and it just so happens that's what happened in 2020. And we saw in official news articles referencing back when the police were questioning him, they could smell alcohol on his breath. Smelling alcohol on one's breath, does that truly indicate completely drunk or the chance of being drunk? Well, it at least confirms that alcohol was consumed to an extent. So, is it wherever alcohol follows, death does too? Not always, but it can at times. The other thing you would have to ask yourself is, due to the severity of social hosting laws and distributing, serving, or allowing people to bring alcohol with them, even if they're out underage, how many parties over the years in Terrell, Oklahoma as a whole, nearby Ryan, Comanche, Duncan, how many parties in the general area have led to deaths of people attending, coming or going from a party, and there's alcohol involved? How many people die from alcohol-related events? Not as a whole in the US, but for that one town or state. If it's rather high, I think you should start raising a few questions. If it's not that often, because there's other forms and causes of death, well then, you know, you could have some counterpoints. What I'm still interested to know is, what the hell is that in the water? It looks like a bloody miniature shark. I think it might just be a reflection or a log, but it's always caught my attention in the past. And as for that, is that an abandoned boat? Bloody hell. Man overboard. Oh God, probably not the best reference to that, but that's separate. We just happen to be in the same area, which is unfortunate. The other event is where you got, Lucio that was driving and crashed into a parked vehicle. Some say, it's really dark that, and someone's responsible. And outsiders or opposition say, it's no big deal, it's unfortunate, but no one else was responsible for that. It's just unfortunate. But coming or going from a party, if there's an influence of alcohol, once again, impacting oneself or impacting others, just a general theme of alcohol. And maybe it doesn't even have to apply to underage drinking, it just applies to anyone drinking it, drinking responsibly. And if people aren't, they can endanger their own lives and others, and it can lead to consequences. Not all the time, but it raises the chance of that happening. So at the end of the day, you can say alcohol is a problem. It just so happens that in this case, it was also underage drinkers too. Was there enough true role models present at the party? No, because parents weren't there. It was just a collection of younger people hanging out together. All trusting of one another, I guess. I mean, we have referenced in the past, did anyone feel like an odd one out or strangers to others that came on down at a point? I don't know. I'm still interested to know, why did Caden in a private interview say Friday to Saturday is when 40 people were at the party? Then in Partners in True Crime public interview, he said Sunday night only is when 30, 40 people were there. Which day did it actually fall on? Because depending on the day, the more people at the party, the more people possibly drunk. The more room for things escalating. The more people at the party at a certain point, the more opportunities Noah has to reach out to any one of them for a lift back home. right? I mean, where was Gage Jessen when it came to Monday? If Noah wanted a lift, was he able to contact Gage? Did Jack make an attempt to contact Gage or not? How did the best friend Jack Newton react to Noah wanting a lift back home? I mean, that's another key question. We focus on Caden because Caden admitted himself that Noah approached him. It's good of Caden to make reference of that, acknowledge it. As for other partygoers, it's just not been made clear enough as to who Noah asked, but it's been said multiple people. But how many people are them? And did Noah try reaching out to his best friend Jack Newton about getting a lift back home? What was Jack's attitude to that? If Carter Combs was the designated driver, very capable of giving people lifts back and forth, if Carter didn't want to give Noah a lift, why would that be? And is there any way that could Jack Newton, as a best friend to Noah, talk around it to persuade his girlfriend Carter at the time to give Noah a lift? Any attempt made. Now, once again, you could say, why should Noah be given full treatment and go to the end and lengths and depths of this world just to give him a lift back home when there's many other people that want a lift? Well, I guess it's just because everybody else somehow managed to make it back home without many issues, and people did get lifts back home. Why was Noah the odd one out? That's what I'd like to know. Further to question, if Noah Presgrove didn't walk away supposedly at a certain time, and after 3:30 when other people started leaving the party bit by bit, if Noah was still around on site, would he have had any other chances of being driven back home, or was it, nope, you're staying here, you're trapped, you're not going anywhere. You're not going anywhere until you're dead. How do you look at it? It doesn't sound too good. And once again, if Noah had his own vehicle, he can make his own choice when he leaves. But if he's not in the right frame of mind, or physically, because of influence of alcohol, he's not going to get far. And even if by some chance he did, is he going to make it all the way back safely? Probably not. How much differently would that case have been treated? If Noah Presgrove was drunk driving and doing so recklessly, like a side-by-side situation, or if he killed anyone else or just himself, how would the case have been handled and dealt with? Would be still where we are right now? Would people find it hard to believe that it was all down to Noah and reckless driving? I said, this is just an alternative. But I just want to know, how do people's minds work? You know, the attitudes and responses. I don't know, personally. Maybe it might have been resolved quicker. Would the attitudes have changed? Would there still been a blame game? To be fair, yeah, I think for as long as alcohol was at the party, even if somehow Noah died by his own doing, not that I truly think that's what happened here, but in an alternative situation, like I'll give my examples, if Noah had died in other ways and it was mainly down to him and his own recklessness, I think people online would still be pushing the social housing laws and seeking justice there because of alcohol being served to underage people and those underage people taking advantage of that alcohol and then facing consequences afterwards. But all the blame should fall on the host and not equally with the ones that started drinking. Interesting. I think that's just how it would go in people's mindsets. So to refer back to it being a trap, this place, Noah Presgrove unexpectedly, unknowingly trapped himself on site of the party the moment he decided to accept the invite back to come on down Sunday evening, Sunday night time, back to the party. And having no vehicle of his own, he wouldn't be able to make it back. Now, really, whilst, yeah, the original making it back, returning to the party is the second mistake. The first mistake, you could say, is leaving the vehicle at the place of his living. But at the same time, it's not really a complete mistake because he wouldn't be able to use it properly if he wanted to leave on the Monday, as I said, due to possible drunk driving, getting in trouble, or worse, danger. But still, let's say you weren't drunk and you were able to drive. Leaving it behind means you are dependent on when you are at a remote place and you got to rely on others. So I still count that. Second mistake, obviously, is just returning back to the party. A third mistake is the one. I don't think so. I'm just wondering, Noah wanting to leave to go back home, was there a point where he just accepted, right, I ain't going to get what I want, I'll just put up with staying here then, like how I did Saturday? I mean, did Noah ever say how long he intended on staying at the party for? He was quite okay being there Saturday to night time, going into Sunday morning, and then after that, leaving. After Warwicker. Did Noah ever say how long he intended on staying at the party for? I wonder. It's just interesting, isn't it, that out of all the parties in the past where alcohol has been involved and Noah has been present, directly at this party house or in a different location with the same people, nothing bad happened to Noah then, from what we're aware of. So why on this occasion? What was different this time round for death to occur? Different location, different time of the season, yeah, why should that matter? I'm just throwing it out there. Different set of people, different combination of party guests and goers. Ongoing events at the time or things unfolding. I mean, just as an example, Noah Presgrove yelling at Jack for Jack being the one to have flirted with Noah's girlfriend at the time of the party or just before that, and maybe more than just flirting. Yeah, Noah has a right to be yelling at Jack, but, you know, you talk about kicking someone when they're already down. If you was just to isolate certain events, the start, Noah finds out that Jack is flirting with Noah's girlfriend. That's unfortunate, on the receiving end of that. Being backstabbed as well by your best friend. And then, end point, dying. There's no karma there, is there? And as we know, there's some people in the community that like to say karma this, karma that, just like when it came to certain things I faced on YouTube. Do you know what? Yeah, there's some people out there, I know exactly who they are, that would probably say karma if there was a sudden cancer diagnosis on someone. Oh, I'm getting all cold and dark now. I'm just being realistic, bitch. Anyway, let's focus back in. So, when you isolate a certain amount of events, it's like Noah's always on the receiving end. On the receiving end of being slapped by Shandy, by Brylan. On the receiving end of being fish hooked by Mikey. On the receiving end of somehow dying. On the receiving end of best friend stabbing him in the back. Is there any possible factors or events that Noah did to someone or someone else which triggered them to act out? Was there any ammunition? That's what I'm trying to say. Even if it's very meaningless and not warranted, is there any ammunition whatsoever? Something Noah did or said to someone at the party or just before, which may have triggered a later response? Now, the only other grey area which is very unfortunate would be around the time of when Noah walking away and the unknown time of when Caden mentioned about Colton, some skinny guy, no name mentioned, and Travis Monson returning back to the party house to get the alcohol. At what time was that? Did it collide at the time of when Noah was leaving? Did they cross paths when Noah was walking away from the house or when he was returning back to the house? You know, we always refer back to the CCTV cameras, would have helped a lot in understanding it visually. even that side by side, to understand, could Noah walk in a straight line? Was he truly drunk? Does that reinforce, as in if he had his own vehicle, same outcome, but maybe worse and further away? Once again, the theme of this video isn't which some people could say, well, this and that didn't happen, or we don't know for certain. So how does this actually help the case? Well, firstly, it keeps the case alive just by talking about it and mentioning the key names. And second of all, it reiterates the importance and the dangers and the responsibilities of alcohol and how it may or may not have been poorly handled at the time of the party, reinforcing action that may need to be taken or followed up on beyond, which hasn't been yet. So I'll just throw that in. And I'm just reusing some of these timestamps and points to refer to the importance of them and any possible grey areas. I mean, this grey area here, might as well throw it in. Caden reference that Jasmine Millan tells him Monday, at a later point, 2 to 3 a.m, Noah walks off. Why? The last final time Noah walked off may or may not have been partially because of the bedroom debacle, the sleeping arrangements. But in between 2 to 3 in the morning, what was the reason then for Noah walking away? What would have caused that? Maybe not as bad. But if that truly did happen at that set time, he would have had to have been able to, or likely would have been able to make it back. Unless this was a very rough timestamp. Between 2 to 3, it could be 2, it could be 2:30, it could be 2:50, or it could be straight up 3 in the morning or 3:02 in the morning. We're going to the upper end spectrum of it. 3 in the morning. Oh, could it be in between 3 and 3:30 in the morning? Oh, could it roughly be what Jasmine said so loosely, the same thing what Jack stated or referenced at some point being 3:30? It's the same thing. But because one's kind of like an estimated range and then the other one's a dead-on set number, sounds like 2 separate events. You know what I'm saying? And this is the problem with miscommunication and inconsistencies within this case. One person could say one thing, the others could say different. It could all be the same stuff that they're referring to, but how they word it or the times that they give doesn't quite connect. So it sounds like isolated events. Creates more filler depth into a case which may not warrant it or is necessary. Yeah, I mean, that's a possibility, that. Was there anything else to make reference here? Not that I'm aware of. So I would say I'm catching up now with, video ideas, what I wanted to get done. I've managed that. The odd loose one on the side, which I'll probably do tomorrow. Be on the lookout for it. Only small scale. It now enables me to look elsewhere or at pre-existing other video projects and ideas. Not much conflict drama at the moment as a whole, which you could say is good, but when it goes quiet, that's when you should be worried, because it's when's the next time something's going to burst or blow up. I mean, I've had my own little fair share of encounters with arguably incompetent humans and major misunderstandings. There's not much I can do about that. I make it as clear as possible when I'm talking, and that's still not good enough. So, bit of a lost cause, isn't it, with certain people? And, the responses by them to their attitudes, it doesn't get any better there. The predictions or observations that I felt, okay at the moment, but I sense there's a couple of twats present, okay? I know, hopefully Donna Bond doesn't get too jealous when it comes to certain words, like the T word, like what I just said. But, when it comes to consistency in a case, not just solving a case or trying to learn about it and research and just work one's way through and understanding, it can also come down to making observations, that consistency, who's at fault or who's a problem, who's a lost cause. In the Dylan Rounds case, I was consistent there, called out a few prats and planks, and still do to this day, because once a person becomes one, they remain like that forever. That sounds a bit harsh. Well, we're only talking about YouTube and the community aspect. And I say for quite some time because the way people still make the same mistakes and pledge allegiance, then break down, then pledge allegiance and break down elsewhere is quite pathetic and embarrassing. But it happens. Unless some do that because they can benefit from it, and that's why they put themselves through all of the drama and conflict. But nowadays, in a completely different case such as the one right now, there'll be external twats, there might be some internal or future ones. And the reason why I made a reference to Donna Bond is because she likes using that word. So I don't want to use it too much. But to be honest, there is a difference, isn't there? Besides consistency, you got twats and then you got twats. Okay, that's my version, a bit more emphasized. And what I mean by consistency, if I see someone playing up or their attitude, their behavior, it's toxic, it's cancerous, or a level of entitlement, rude, demanding, interrogation-like presence towards me, I'm starting to see it more. Why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? Who told you this? Who told you that? It's just so sudden, it's so full on. It's like, oh, could I ask you a question? No, it's who told you this? Who told you that? I'm thinking, just calm the fuck down, piss pot. Okay, there's a time and place for everything. You come rushing on in like a bull. How do you think the outcome's going to go? Reckless, calm down, or the doctor will have to make another appearance. Don't want that, do we? Well, some might. Some might, yeah. But in terms of consistency, when I noticed the issues and the ones at fault at hand, from start to finish, they're twat. And I'll make reference to that. I am the twatinator, okay? Besides the whippinator. Just thought it was worth letting you know. Hopefully YouTube don't tell me off with this. Oh well. But if you found this video somewhat interesting, even if it wasn't the general theme, but the side questions asked along the way, feel free to hit the like button, share the video so more people get to see it. And if you've got any more questions, if you agree or disagree, drop a comment down below, that'll be much appreciated. I'll see you next time, whenever that is. But for now, goodbye and good night.